People always talk about the golden era of this, the golden era of that. In what golden era are we right now? We're in a golden era of pro wrestling. If not the golden era, what do you want to talk about? Business is booming. The level of talent is absolutely incredible. Off the charts high right now. Ring work has never been so good or athletic. This business has once again gone from undesirable to undeniable. If you are a fan, now is a great time to get back into it. If WWE isn't your cup of tea, try AEW. If neither, maybe one of the smaller major promotions like TNA, NWA, MLW. They're all very different, or perhaps an indie like GCW. If you are a fan, savor it. This is the time to remember. Access to knowledge. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation and stuff to sift through, but if you're dedicated and a critical thinker, you can get an advanced degree level of knowledge for free on virtually any topic. I've learned more in the last few years by reading, watching YouTube, and listening to podcasts than I did in my PhD program, and on a greater variety of topics: music, history, thermodynamics, calculus, quantum mechanics, literature, etc. And I don't even have that much time to devote to it. I only hope it will continue to be like this when I retire, because that's what I plan to do. I'll say a positive one: sports medicine and accessible sports health, massage, stretch, and bodywork professional services are extremely common. You can get tons of hydration support at Costco and Walmart, and no contract. You can use HSA letters to get tons of medical stuff that you used to have to pay up the ass for. I have leggings with a built-in brace, an electric knee hot and cold therapy machine, etc. As an athlete, I feel like the world is my burrito. Board game design with better and better games coming out with fresh new mechanics. Medical advances: CRISPR, leaps in vaccine production, public interest knowledge in medicine. Yes, overall an average increase. Advances in cancer treatment, MS treatment, surgical procedures, etc. Economic uplifts: more people in the world now die of diseases caused by overeating than malnourished. Meant jokes and such aside, this is a monumental human achievement. More people than ever have access to indoor plumbing, global communications, etc. In spite of the really gross Vince McMahon controversies coming to wrestling, is in a pretty good spot right now. Two bigger American companies. Smaller independent companies seem to be doing pretty well. There's some great companies in Japan. Female wrestlers are getting much more attention and airtime. Wrestlers seem to be taking better care of themselves when it comes to steroids, drugs, and alcohol. There are concussion protocols in place. I believe the art of professional wrestling is moving in a great direction. I heard a year or two ago that people say that it's the golden era of podcasts. Everyone with a functioning mic is able to make podcast. Many top podcasters can make hours-long episode and attract millions of listeners. Also golden era of influencers. Now it's much more one direction: a good-looking person, usually women, but some funny men create an Instagram reel or TikTok video, and tens of thousands if not millions of people watch them. The USA men's soccer team has more players getting legitimate minutes in European leagues than ever before. We may field an entire World Cup starting lineup of players at age 20 to 28 who feature in very high-profile teams in Europe. In the past, our squad was mostly a bunch of journeyman-type players from MLS, with a handful of early to mid-20s players who had big roles in somewhat high-profile teams. If our current team actually performs well in the 2026 World Cup, then I'd say we're in a golden generation. Though some would disagree, surely. We're in a golden age of horror films. Not only do we have more access to the classics now than ever before, but new films come out with regularity that are perfectly watchable and enjoyable. There's also lots of content creators making horror content on YouTube, etc. to help surface films and find interesting things. If you transported a horror fan from 1985 to today and showed them nothing but the horror scene, they would surely be very impressed. Golden age of indie games. especially 2D games or games with beautiful pixel art. I remember discovering Super Meat Boy, Limbo, and Braid forever ago, and I would look everywhere for similar games but find very little. Now, there is a flood of beautiful, conceptual, and addictive indie games that are bursting with stunning pixel art. It's to the point that I run into new titles to try all the time without even trying. A much younger me wouldn't know what to think of this bounty. Okay, we are not quite there. On the cusp of obesity management. Obesity destroys mental and physical health. Once the cost of GLPs comes down, it will be a game changer for quality of life. For anyone saying it is a matter of self-control, I do not believe this. I have personally never been overweight, but have seen a sibling struggle for decades. If it was just personality, then GLPs wouldn't work. Proof it is not 100 about willpower. Animated TV shows and movies to a lesser extent. Some recent examples of great animated media: Arcane, Spider-Verse, She-Ra, The Owl House, Vox Machina, Hazbin Hotel, Kipo, Blue-Eyed Samurai, Invincible, The Dragon Prince, Final Space, The Clone Wars, Lower Decks, Prodigy. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch, and not all of these are on equal footing, but it's crazy to have so many decent to excellent shows when we were starved for so long. Godzilla. I know, it might sound silly, but if you look into the past, film budgets, amounts of movies over a certain time period, scale of film, earnings, accessibility of the film library, etc., all of that combine, it's unprecedented. Plus with -1 being so damn incredible, winning the first Oscar in Godzilla's 70 years of existing, damn. It's a good time to be a G fan. Long live the king. We are currently in the innocent era of the tech, where it is used for mostly mundane tasks and automating said mundane tasks. The imagery piece of the tech, while rapidly improving, is not quite in a place yet where it is extremely difficult to separate the fake from real. At this current rate, in 5-10 years it will replace a lot of human jobs and will be nearly impossible to separate fake from real. Cheap electronics that function well. Chinese companies spitting out cheap, disposable tech will hit the ground, and there will be a push to manufacture these things in the West, with some expectation and acceptance of a higher price tag. Right now, you can get 5 years out of a large TV bought new for like $150. I don't see that lasting. I think we are at the sunset of one of the golden eras of information. Since the internet, knowledge and information has been more accessible than ever. Now, politics and the weaponization of rhetoric are making the whole truth harder and harder to find. In the future, with AIs, deepfakes, and propaganda bots all over the internet, real information will be lost to the common man once more. I think we're in the golden era of stupidity. Multiple states gutting their education systems, unbelievable number of people voting against their own interests, favor of the corporations to the detriment of the average American, vilifying whole groups based on blatant lies, allowing political groups to easily divide and conquer. It just seems to go on and on. Women's sports. When I was born, it was insignificant. Almost no serious equipment, coaches, or pro contracts. Catherine Switzer got assaulted for running a marathon. Now, it's exploded into a whole industry, vast choices of equipment, modern facilities, pro coaching, women's competition selling out. Finally achieved 50-50 male-female Olympic participation this year, huge social improvement. A bit cynic, but a golden era of freedom of speech and non-surveillance. Internet defaulted to a censor-free place because the pioneers envisioned it that way, and the technology made it hard to limit information. I think info warfare and the fact that the technology for censorship now exists makes it almost unavoidable that some walls will be put. The question is how far the pendulum will swing. LGBTQIA to S exposure. Hear me out, this is a golden time to be a part of this group whether you own it or an ally. For the first time in modern history, these people have more acceptance and support than hatred and persecution. While I don't believe for a nanosecond that LGBTQIA+ will ever go away, I do believe that it will become so commonplace in society that it almost becomes mundane. It's never the golden age during that era. It's only the appreciation of the way things were after they worsen. Future generations will look back on our time and before as the world before normalized fake videos and audio. I suspect within 15 years, video and audio will no longer be submissible as evidence in court. It will be dodgy for a long time before this. But laws are slow to adapt. We're in the pre-AI golden age. None of our movies or music make heavy use of AI. There aren't AI celebrities that only exist on the internet but somehow have 1 billion followers. There aren't videos of politicians doing questionable things that people actually believe in. Kids' cartoon movies are still made by humans by hand, and not fully or partially generated via AI. Pro wrestling, WWE, is making huge profits every year and thriving from Saudi deals and merch sales. A lot of their fans are very happy with the current storylines they got running. In addition to that, AEW, a second major wrestling company that started in 2019 and has continued to thrive to this day. We hadn't seen a second company this big since WCW in the 90s. Television, whereas movies are heavily relying on existing IP, television is uniquely regional right now with lots of money being poured into development. Going to change now that streaming is being repackaged to just be the old cable model. But when streaming threatened network TV, it's opened up a huge shift in how television was made. And it's wonderful.